Hey guys, and welcome into Fantasy Football Academy 2020. I am the Dean, and this is Championship Week editions. So, you made it this far. You're in the title game, and you're not happy about some things. I know I'm not. Look, we got some injuries to talk about today. We've got some decisions to make, and we want to take a look back because this time of year, it's getting near the end of the year. Some of us are looking back and reflecting on the years past. And I know 2020 has kind of been crazy for a lot of people. But remember, I talked about it in a previous episode that 2020 was all about perspective. Other people might have had a bad year. Might have had a bad week. Might have, definitely a lot of people had bad years. But it's all at how you look at it, how you allow it to affect you. Do you allow the negativity to creep into your day-to-day? Do you allow the negativity of your surroundings, your environment to affect you? Or do you and your positivity affect your environment? So fantasy football and life are kind of intertwined in a way that, if you look at it, you're going to deal with things in fantasy just as you deal with things in real life. In fantasy football, you're going to come up against injuries that you got to replace players, that you have to pivot away from that superstar, and you've got to go with a backup that you're just putting a lot of hope in, and you're praying that it comes through. Just like in life, there's things that happen to you day to day. Things go wrong with your job. Things are going wrong with your marriage. Things are going wrong with your kids. And you've got to figure out a way to turn that negative into a positive. So just as there are ways in life, I know myself this past year, I've gotten closer to God. I've gotten more involved with the church. I'm trying to give more back. And here on this show, I'm trying to give as much as I can back to the community that has brought me so much joy over the years during this time of year in fantasy football, to enhance my love of the game. And I want to kind of direct you guys to that. So I want you to follow along with me. We're going to discuss the tale of two teams today. We're going to go over some injury reports and some pivots, some options that you might have. But I want you to keep in mind that just as this year has brought struggles and has brought a lot of negativity into our lives, there's a lot of positive if you look in the right direction. So looking back at this year, just real quick for myself personally, started this channel. I've spent a lot more time with my family, with my wife. We've gotten closer. We've worked on our marriage. We've worked on our kids. We've taken steps closer to God. And I thank God for this 2020 year that has brought a lot of things into perspective that we might have overlooked if this was any normal year. If this was a year just filled with the day-to-day routine, mundane things that life has. So I want you to look back and reflect a little bit into what this year has meant for you. How have you taken the negativity and turned it into positivity? Have you reached out to your fellow man? Have you reached out to your neighbors, to your loved ones, to your distant family members that maybe you haven't talked to in a while? How have you reached out and helped in others' lives? Because that's the only way that we can truly be happy, is that if we are productive in someone else's life, not just our own. So with that said, I'm going to try to be a little positive to your fantasy lineup this week and try to help get you that title. And I want you to, down the bottom, subscribe, like, and share for me. As we go through the tale of two teams, we're going to compare one championship run to another championship run. One team that finished in 5th place One team that finished number 2 and a fabulous record, the Mrs. team. So let's get into that real quick, and we're going to show you how you build a championship team 2 ways. And I know some of you might be going, well, wait a minute, I thought there was only one way to build a championship team. No, there are many ways to build a championship team. We see here returning champ Mandy, who, if you look at her squad, I want you to real quick, just look at her squad here. Mahomes, Cook, Eckler, Godwin, Metcalf, Waller, Jeff Wilson, Blankenship, the Rams D. Look down at her bench. Matt Ryan, Mike Davis, Robbie Anderson, James Conner, Kiki QT, Chase Claypool, and the Steelers D. Now, I want you to keep all of this in mind because we're going to go back to week 1 and see how she drafted. So let's look here. Put up 130 points in week 1. Not bad, but she ran into a problem with the Cajun Poodoos 157 game. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, it's not panic time. It's only week 1. But not only did she not panic, she stayed the course. Remember, guys, when you get your starters, when you get your locked and loaded guys that you identify on your squad, yeah, it's easy to go into the draft and go first 5 rounds, you lock in your guys, you know they're going to be productive. But there were a lot of teams this year that dealt with a lot of injuries and had to deal with a lot of, let's just say, missed expectations. I know CMC and Saquon were definitely ones that if you drafted them, you weren't happy with the outcome because you lost CMC about 3 or 4 games in. You lost Saquon in week 2 and you never got him back. CMC kept teasing you with that, perspective of coming back in time for the playoffs. Oh, he's going to come back in time to help get you a championship run. And it never happened. He had that one game back where he just went bananas. He was his old self. CMC's back. Christian's going to take me to the Super Bowl. And then he gets hurt again and again in practice. And injuries keep popping up. And if you didn't get Mike Davis the first go round, you definitely weren't getting him the second because everyone was holding on to him. So we look down at her week 1 starters. Look at this. We see some familiar names here. Mahomes, Cook, Eckler, Godwin, Waller, Metcalf, Steelers D. Wait, what? You've only got your kicker, who I don't know about anybody else, but I rotated pretty much on a weekly basis based upon matchup. And Allen Robinson, who went through a quarterback change in week 4, which coincidentally, she let go of him in week 9. Now, was that someone that you probably would want to have back? Yeah. But when we look at this, we see that she has other options. Okay. So move Metcalf into that role right there. And then we go down. We still got Matt Ryan. Now, Leonard Fournette is a name that you're going to hear a lot this session. T.Y. Hilton didn't really show up until, I don't know, I think week 13, 14, and 15. Or I'm sorry, week 12, 13, and 14. He finally showed up. But do you want to be carrying somebody that long? No. So she ditched him. Leonard Fournette lost job to Ronald Jones. Hayden Hurst wasn't really what we thought he was going to be. Preston Williams dealt with injuries, dealt with lowered expectations. Zach Moss didn't turn into what we thought he was going to turn into. And Cam Akers didn't show up until late in the playoffs, and then he got hurt. Matt Ryan, good, steady backup, but she's got Mahomes that she paid a very early price for, and it panned out. So, all in all, that squad led her, let's go to 16, to a record of 10-3 on the regular season. So 10-3 on the regular season. And then we go look at my squad. Now, we see here Baker Mayfield. Yes, I'm starting Baker Mayfield because he's playing the Jets. I know they just shut down the Rams. But as I said previously in another episode, my belief is that the Rams overlook the Jets. The Browns can't. Why? Because the Jets are the Browns a few years ago. And they know that you can't overlook a wounded animal. Now, here's the other thing. How much flack have you heard that Adam Gase is getting for winning that game and possibly losing the future of the franchise that he will no longer be a part of after this season? Do you really think that a coach that goes 1-15 is going to be brought back for the next year with a top prospect coming out of college at quarterback? A guy who hasn't been hyped. We haven't heard anybody being hyped like this, like Trevor Lawrence is being hyped, since Andrew Luck. Drawing comparisons to Peyton Manning for his football IQ. And he hasn't played one snap of professional football. He's only played in college. But the potential that the Jets just actually won and lost in the same game brings us to the point that the Jets don't want to win this game. The Browns have to win this game. They've got to win. They're only getting in on a wild card. They're not going to catch the Steelers. They have to keep pace with the Ravens. The Ravens have been putting up 40 points. They already own the tiebreaker with Cleveland. If Cleveland wants to make the playoffs, they've got to get that extra wild card spot. Remember, there's 3 of them this year, and there's 3 of them this year, and there's only 1 bye. Right now in the AFC, the Chiefs own that bye. So yes, Cleveland has to win this game. So this is a must win, and Baker will make sure that it happens. Now, here's my only fear, is that it turns into the Nick Chubb show. If this turns into the Nick Chubb show, then I'm kind of messed up. And we'll show you what everybody knows what my backup is if you've seen this enough. If you watch the episodes, and if you haven't, if you're a first-time subscriber and you're looking for tips and tricks on how to get that title, welcome, and I hope I help out. Down at the bottom, subscribe, like, and share for me so that next year when we fire up the academy again, you'll be able to follow me from draft time to title time, okay? We know that Justin Herbert is my backup right now, has been my starter, and has led me to the championship. I'm worried about him hitting that rookie wall the last couple of weeks, and the fact that the Chargers really have nothing to play for. So we see Derrick Henry, Leonard Fournette, Robert Woods, Corey Davis, Travis Kelce, T.Y. Hilton. Yeah, my wife and I kind of flip-flopped that, but she had dropped them and I picked them up. Matt Gay and the Ravens defense. We see on my bench Tyler Lockett, Raheem Mostert, Nyheim Hines, Terry McLaurin, James Robinson, who I hate benching, but I have to because of injury, Justin Herbert going up against Denver, and the Colts D, with Myles Gaskin on the COVID list. Now, Gaskin, I'm really not worried about pulling him off, even though it's against Vegas. I will be keeping an eye on injuries, but that's why I went out and picked up Leonard Fournette. Now, you might be thinking, hey, Dean, that's kind of a mismatched squad. No really big, heavy hitters except for Kelsey and Henry. Nobody that I want to stand up and go, man, they've been lights out. McLaurin's even had ups and downs this year. Lockett has finished worse than 47, wide receiver 47 in, if I'm not mistaken, eight games this year. So about half the season, he's been 47th or worse. And with the struggles with Russell Wilson as of late, I'm really not that confident in starting him against a very upset Rams defense. And, might I add, a very potent Rams defense, apparently, except when they're facing the Jets. So, we see that was my week 16. That's my week 16 lineup. Now, let's go back and look at week 1. Now, week 1, we see I put up 163 points with my squad that week. You're like, man, that's awesome. You were like the top scoring team in the league. Dean, how did you not wind up better than 5th? Well, I had a lot of injuries. I caught some bad beats. But let's look at this roster. Lamar Jackson. And if you see here, Lamar got 33 points for me. However, that was one of, if not the only game that he had decent. My 2 starting running backs, Raheem Mostert, IR. Saquon Barkley, lost in week 2. DJ Shark, underperformed. Terry McLaurin dealt with a rotating quarterback room between Alex Smith, who game manager, love him to death, comeback player of the year in my opinion, and Dwayne Haskins, who apparently is more interested in going to strip clubs than actually playing football. Travis Kelce is my bright and shining star and the best tight end and, ironically, the top receiver in the league. Thankfully, I have him to go up against Patrick Mahomes this week. Juju Smith-Schuster putting up 24.9 points, 2 touchdowns, 69 receiving yards in the first game. Yes, it was against the Giants, but he still put up the points. Robbie Gould and the Ravens D. Ravens D I have held on to through the entire year, along with Travis Kelce and Terry McLaurin. Now we go down here, and we see nobody who is currently on my squad is on my backups. Matt Stafford has been replaced with Baker Mayfield. Latavius Murray, Kareem Hunt, Anthony Miller, Miles Sanders, who I traded away, Jalen Reagor, who got hurt and did not come into his own until later and only for a couple of games. Antonio Gibson, who came in late and is now injured. So, what is the point of showing you guys how my team looked from week 1 to week 16 and how my opponent, who just so happens to be my wife, team looks from week 1 to week 16? Very simply, you have to adjust accordingly to your situation. You have to look at the environment surrounding your players and how that is going to affect you long term. Now, throughout the year, I made adjustments based upon my players getting hurt, the matchups, and other players rising higher than what you expected them to. But in order to stay ahead of the competition and ahead of other guys in the league, I had to look ahead. I had to look at matchups down the road. That's why in, I believe it was week 12, I made that radical trade for Derrick Henry. where I gave up Darrell Henderson. Let's see. Darrell Henderson, and there was someone else I gave up. Let's see real quick. I'll show you guys. So let's go ahead and let's pull this up real quick. So we see here, I traded away Miles Sanders to get Raheem Mostert back for the end of the year. And you might be thinking, well, Dean, why would you do that? Why would you trade away Miles Sanders, who's the only bright spot, for Raheem Mostert coming back to a team that had multiple options? Well, here's the thing, is that when he's the only person on that squad, not only do I know that, but other NFL defenses know that. So they're just going to tee off on him. So I didn't want to do that. But we see here, made the radical trade in week 11 for Derrick Henry, giving up Darrell Henderson and T. Higgins. Now, this is after I traded away Kareem Hunt to get T. Higgins. But here's the thing. At that time, Joe Burrow was still on fire. You might be thinking, well, Dean, why give away Darrell Henderson, who was just running rampant for the Rams, and T. Higgins, who was arguably the go-to guy for Joe Burrow? Why? Because Derrick Henry had matchups coming up, and we're going to pull them up real quick. Down the stretch, you see right here, he had Jacksonville, Detroit, Green Bay. What? I'm definitely taking those matchups for week 14, 15, and 16, which is first round, semifinals, championship week of the fantasy football playoffs. And you might be thinking, well, why would anyone let him go after scoring 21 against Baltimore and 29 against 12 against Indianapolis in week 10, and then having Baltimore coming up, Indianapolis, but looking forward, didn't other guys see that? Apparently not. This is what the short-sighted player sees and what the rookie player sees versus a veteran NFL or a veteran fantasy player. Look up here. See, he went against Chicago and got 6 points. Then faced a really tough defense in Indy with 12.9. Now, that's not why you drafted Derrick Henry. You drafted Derrick Henry to get to weeks like this in week 6 against Houston, 45 points. But then he dropped off against Pittsburgh. He got 18 against Cincinnati. Then he got 6 against Chicago. You're starting to waver a little bit. The team that I traded him for wasn't in any desperate need, but they panicked. And I knew they panicked. So you take advantage of that. You look down here, and initially this owner did not want to do this trade. And I said, okay, but you realize that he's got Baltimore and then Indianapolis again coming up. And he said, okay, I'll do the trade, because he needed a receiver and he needed another running back if he was going to give away Derrick Henry. So what happened after that? Well, of course, I started him in week 12. I sat him in week 13, and then I've been starting him every week since. Now, we look down here at Darrell Henderson. I traded him away in week 12, going up against a injured San Francisco team, scored 1.9. Arizona, decent, but then Cam Akers happened. Guess what? Cam Akers ain't going to be there this week. He's going up against Seattle. So Cam Akers is out. Darrell Henderson's in. But does it really make a difference right now? Because this team isn't in the playoffs. They're not in the championship game. I am. What happened to T. Higgins? Let's look at this. T. Higgins, traded week 11. Yeah, had a good game here. Not so good, no touchdowns since I traded him away. Except for the one. He had one touchdown the first week after I traded him away. Then he had 10, 9, and 6. And now he gets to face Houston. Without Joe Burrow. Because Joe Burrow got hurt in week 12. Now, that's what I mean when I told you guys before that you need to think long-term and react short-term, okay? So think long-term. You need to react now in order to get where you want to go. So we talked about wanting to look at key injuries, and we're also going to run down real quick the matchups that are coming up this week. I'm just pulling that up right now. One second, guys. So we got a few key injuries. I talked about Raheem Mostert earlier. Raheem Mostert gonna be out. He's on IR. So you're looking for Jeff Wilson if he's still out there. If you need some help at running back, and there's a lot of injuries at running back this week, guys. You're gonna have to pivot a lot if you have certain players. If you guys have a solid running back room, great, awesome. If not, down the bottom, when you subscribe, like, and share, please comment on this video and let me know what your dilemma is and who you have to start. If you don't want to follow me, if you don't want to leave your comment there, find me on Twitter at FantasyDean20 and leave your question there for me, okay? We talked about James Robinson, high ankle sprain, so he's going to be out. I don't want either one of these guys because, like the Jets, with the Jets win against the Rams, losing the number 1 spot, of course, that means someone moves into the number 1 spot. And who is that besides Jacksonville? Now, here's what the question I want to pose to you is that if Trevor Lawrence winds up in Jacksonville, I believe that's a better spot for him to be, because if you look at the lineup that they have, once they get healthy in the offseason, you're talking about DJ Shark and James Robinson along with Trevor Lawrence coming in. That could be a very, very potent offense, along with Kenneth Cole at wide receiver, for a very long time. These all 4 of those guys, young, talented, and in a division to do a lot of damage. Houston's defense is not what they used to be. The Colts are going to go through a transition as well, because do you really think that Rivers is going to be there that long? Probably not. Is their defense strong? Yes, but we've seen before that injuries can cripple a defense. Just look at the Niners if you need an example from this year. So with that said, and in the AFC South, and you see that Jacksonville is probably better poised to make a run at the title than anyone else in that division. So we see James Robinson's going to be out. I don't want either one of those backups, and I really don't see him trying to win. Cam Akers going out there getting hurt. Also, he's going to be out. So what does that mean? That leaves the door open for anyone who has either held on or been able to go out and get Darrell Henderson, they're going to turn around and lean towards as the running back. Now, here's the only problem is that you really can't trust anybody from the Rams because it's so hit and miss as it has been all season. It's been very frustrating to pick a Rams running back that's going to go off. You can pick Henderson, somebody else goes off. You pick, Akers, Henderson goes off. It's so back and forth. It's not even funny. CMC should be back to practice with a thigh injury. Will he be there to help you win a championship game? I don't want to put my faith in a running back who's had multiple injuries in the short term, and it's just like he just fell apart this year. So do I really want to trust that a team who has nothing to play for is going to roll out their best player against one of the best defenses in the league in Washington? They're calling this a revenge game for Ron Rivera coming back and playing against his old team that he coached. So if anybody knows the ins and outs of this team, it's Ron Rivera. Oh, yeah. And the former offensive coordinator from the Panthers, who is now the offensive coordinator for Washington. Do you think he might know a little thing or two that nobody else does? Probably. So my money's on Washington, as always. But you guys know I am a bit of a realist because being a Washington fan, you kind of have to be. So I don't look at CMC being able to return or them being willing to roll him out against that front seven of Washington. Next guy up is Zeke. That's right, Ezekiel Elliott. We saw what Tony Pollard did this last week. Turned out to be the number one pickup and the number one running back on the week. Okay. He just went bananas this past week. And there's really no reason for them to roll Ezekiel Elliott out when Pollard is playing at that level. Now, Pollard was struggling. Sure, I could see them because technically they're still in the running to make the playoffs. Do you really think they want to make the playoffs? Or do you think Jerry Jones wants to have that higher draft pick? Because whoever wins the NFC East is going to lose in the draft. Because you're going to go from probably a top 10 pick to the bottom of the first round in the 20th, like 22 to 26 range, somewhere around there. CEH got dinged up in this past week's game. He is listed as doubtful, so that means that Le'Veon Bell will be a starter, and I really don't like Lev Bell going into this game. I just don't. I don't see him being the Le'Veon Bell of Pittsburgh days because that's just not how they use him, and he really hasn't shown anything to exude confidence. Where you've got just this 1 week, you can drop everybody if they're not a starter on your team because there's no tomorrow for you guys. Unless you're like my boy Pez playing in week 17, which, by the way, I will be putting out a couple of videos for week 17 players. So stay tuned. We're not done with the academy yet. We're having makeup tests for week 17. But CEH, I don't. Number one, if you were playing them, congrats. You had an awesome team everywhere else because CEH was not performing anyway. And I don't see Bell being that much of an upgrade. Now we see Gesicki and Devontae Parker, both dinged up, both missing time. Do you really want to roll these guys out for championship week? If Gesicki is healthy, go for it. But keep an eye on his practice reps, okay? if there was ever a week where you definitely need to be paying attention to the injury report, it is this week. This is the most crucial week you will ever pay attention to the injury report. Okay, guys? George Kittle, designated for return. Can he come back? Should he come back? Will he come back? Those are the questions that we need answered this week in practices. So when you're looking for the Niners practice report, and if you are rostering George Kittle still, if you've held on to him and you've made it this far, congratulations. So make sure you're taking a look at that. And some of you out there even have James Conner. Sorry. But the way that the Steelers are playing, I don't know if I want Ebron, who's got dinged up in Monday night's game, or Connor. By the way, Pittsburgh lost to Cincinnati? What? Giovanni Bernard got 2 touchdowns? That's nuts, guys. Okay, I'm just saying. That's crazy. That's unheard of, unforeseen, should not have happened. Okay? If you don't think Mike Tomlin is about 10 shades of red, he's going to look like Andy Reid soon. Okay? Now, or I'm sorry, Bruce Arians, because Bruce does get red. Let's not lie about that. Ronald Jones, I said earlier that he would be mentioned. He is listed as doubtful by the coach. And when your coach is saying that you're doubtful, probably not going to play. They do get Detroit, so I don't see them needing Ronald Jones to get this win. So look to Leonard Fournette, because this game is probably going to get out of hand in the first half, which means that Leonard Fournette will get a ton of work. That's why he's on my roster this week. Okay, guys? Now, let's real quick. We're going to burn through the matchups this week, and we're going to kind of give you a little tips and tricks on these matchups. Remember, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, we've got NFL football, no Thursday. That means that tomorrow, when we talk, we're going to be going and handing out end-of-the-year awards for the Academy this year. Okay, we're going to see who got most improved. We're also going to see, which there's only a couple of guys up for that nomination. We're also going to reveal the Golden Plunger Award, which goes to the worst regular season team this year. Guess what? It is not my boy D Money. He did not defend the title, which I'm extremely proud of for him taking a step forward. And maybe next year we'll see him in the playoffs. So, Friday, we got the Vikes versus the Saints. And the big question is, should Drew Brees play in this game, or should it be Taysom Hill? This is something to watch if you're rostering any of the Saints. If you're rostering any of the Vikings, good luck. Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, definitely, and Kirk Cousins. They have had success late season and playoff time against the Saints. Now, with there being no fans in the stands, or very limited fans in the stands for the Superdome, don't look for that to be a big factor like it has been in the past. So basically, these guys are basically playing in front of scrimmage crowds. So it's not as crucial for a home field advantage. So the Saints are still trying to get that bye, but they've got to keep pace with the Packers. So I think if Drew Brees struggles in the first half, then you're going to see a lot of Taysom Hill. You might even see some Jameis Winston if he's off of COVID list. But he did get on the COVID list, so, and that was late. So keep an eye out on the injury reports for this game. Bucks and Lions, we talked about just recently on Saturday. That's going to be the noon game, depending upon your time zone. So check your I'll be like television program. Check your local listings. But the Bucks and the Lions, this is an absolute dream matchup for anybody rostering any Tampa Bay player right now. I would not roll, and Pez, this is for you, buddy. I would not roll out Swift in this matchup. I would definitely stick with Chicago's David Montgomery here, because I know that you had questioned last week about who you should roll out. Of course, you can't do Cam Akers. I believe that was one of your other options. But definitely David Montgomery should be in your lineup. If you got any other questions, buddy, hit me up down bottom, and we'll take care of that for you in short order. Remember, you got an extra day since there's no Thursday matchup. Next up, we got the Niners and the Cards. Look, the Cardinals are trying to hold on for their playoff hopes, and the Niners have basically flushed the season down the toilet. So, yeah, they got a little stronger on defense. There's a lot of pride going on here. It's a divisional matchup. So look for the Niners to actually play up a little bit, but the Cardinals just have way too many targets. They've got way too many weapons. I think that Kyler Murray, while he is dinged up, he did not perform last week up to expectations, up to what he normally does. But I think this week against the Niners, with the playoffs on the line, they cannot lose that grip on the playoffs that they have. They've got to keep pace with the rest of the field. So look for this to be a very high-scoring game. It's Arizona by 5 is the line on this one. By the way, Tampa Bay's line is 9.5, and the Saints are favored by a touchdown over the Vikes. We see the third game. One second. I know. You guys like this? Could be your team too. My wife does these. If you want a tumbler, personalized, has my name on the back. But if you want a tumbler like this personalized, leave me a message down bottom and we will hook you up. Okay? Leave me what your favorite team is, and we will do the colors and the emblem for you with your name on the back of it. Okay? Or maybe your nickname, whatever your handle is for fantasy football. So she does awesome work. She also does custom shot glasses. So if you want some of those, let me know as well. Okay, guys. I know, shameless plug for the wife's business. But we've got Dolphins and the Raiders is the Saturday night game. Miami is favored by 3, so they're looking at this to be a tight game. I think the only reason that this is going to be a tight game is because of injuries on the Dolphins side. The Raiders have just been playing horrible football. Josh Jacobs has been dinged up. Look for Darren Waller to be the lone shining star in this against a very good Miami defense. Waller's going to be the one simply because I don't think that Derek Carr is going to have time, or I'm sorry, not Derek Carr. Marcus Mariota is going to have time to get rid of this ball. He's probably going to take off running. So if you're looking for somebody to stream, if all other options have failed, Marcus Mariota might be a good streamer for you this week. The Raiders clinging to a slim chance at the playoffs with a 7-7 record. They can possibly slide in with a 9-7 in the wild card, but they're going to need some help. Sunday's games. We've got Washington and the Panthers. I touched on that earlier. It's probably going to be Dwayne Haskins. I don't know what kind of disciplinary action they're going to have for him popping up at that strip club maskless. But Washington has said they're going to handle that issue internally. The Panthers, as I said, they're 4-12. They have absolutely nothing to play for but pride. And I don't see it happening this week, guys. I just don't. Teddy B is going to be under a lot of pressure. Robbie Anderson is probably going to be the only guy that's going to be available, and anyone else is going to get just locked down. We got the Falcons and the Chiefs going on next. Look, this line is 10.5. This has a possibility of just being a bonanza of points in all aspects. We saw Calvin Ridley without Julio Jones, and Julio is one that is hopeful to play. He's pushing to play. There's no need to bring him in, but Matt Ryan traditionally has done better with Julio in the lineup than without, with the exception of last week when Calvin Ridley actually showed up without Julio Jones. So if you got Julio, if you got Calvin, if you want to roll out with Julio, go right ahead. I can't blame you for it. In my other league that I'm in, I have Devontae Adams and Julio Jones. I am not rolling out Julio Jones for championship week against a KC defense that is rough. So Calvin Ridley is going to be the guy. If Jones is out there, he's probably going to be just for a decoy to try to get some coverage away from Ridley. Todd Gurley, if you're rolling with Todd Gurley and you're still playing championship week, you probably benched him in lieu of a better option. So you can go ahead and ditch him right now for a different to keep that empty roster spot. Fire up all Chiefs. You can fire up Le'Veon Bell if you're in desperation mode for running back, or maybe a low flex position. But yeah, fire up all the Chiefs. They're ready. They're raring to go, and you're probably going to see Tyreek Hill have another blow-up game, along with Sammy Watkins, McCole Hardman, Travis Kelce, any of those guys. The Browns get the Jets. We already talked about this game. Fire up all your Browns and just pray that the Jets can keep it close enough to where Baker Mayfield, if you're streaming him as I am, can actually throw the ball and get you some production that way. Colts versus the Steelers. I don't want any part of this matchup for either defense because I don't know. Maybe the Colts. I might roll the Colts out just because the Steelers have been playing like crap. But I think I've got a better option with the Ravens matchup this week. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, I don't want either one of these matchups. The Steelers, I think that Big Ben is hurt beyond what we know. We see it in just every aspect. He just looks like he's forgotten how to throw the ball, which is kind of odd to say because he is a Hall of Famer. He's got the numbers. He's got the resume to prove he's a Hall of Famer, but he's just not getting in. And outside of Deontay Johnson, I don't want any part of this game. As far as the Colts go, this probably turned into a Jonathan Taylor situation where he's just running the ball all over the Steelers. When we see Giovanni Bernard getting 2 touchdowns, I'm scared to see what Jonathan Taylor's going to do. Next up, we got the Bears and the Jags. Look, the Bears are actually playing for something. They are trying to get into the playoffs. Mitch Trubisky's been playing out of his mind. And when you got David Montgomery running like he is, and he gets the Jags next, Pez, fire up David Montgomery, please. As far as the Jags go, there's nobody on that squad that I want. And then we get down to the matchup that I spoke of just a couple minutes ago. Ravens get the Giants with either a dinged up Daniel Jones or the perennial backup Colt McCoy. Either one of them gets rolled out. The Ravens have just been playing out of their mind, and they're making a hard late season push to get into the playoffs. They own the tiebreaker over the Browns by beating them twice. Like I said, they put up 40 points the past couple of weeks each. So if you've got a Raven, even if it's Hollywood Brown, who hasn't been shown that much, Mark Andrews, J.K. Dobbins, the Gus Edwards, I would lay off of Mark Ingram, just the trend that he's been setting at not playing and not being productive. I can't risk that for championship week. Next up, we got the Bengals and the Texans, two teams that are playing for absolutely nothing. But I think the Texans go ahead and take this, and this could be a very bad matchup for the Bengals. They could be flying a little too high off of their win against the Steelers. Houston is favored by 8. The Ravens are favored by 11 in their game. Chicago is favored by 7.5. The Colts get the edge with a 1.5 over the Steelers. The Browns got it by 9.5, and the Chiefs have a 10.5 point line, and Washington actually has a 2.5 point favorite in their matchup. Sorry, I didn't cover that earlier, but I'm not a degenerate gambler like some people are. So if you are, not judging, just keep it under control. Broncos Chargers next up. Neither one of these teams are playing for anything. They're both 5-9. Justin Herbert could have a good day, which if Baker wasn't playing the Jets, I would love this matchup for Justin Herbert, but you just can't pass up the Jets. And who knows, later in the week, I might tilt. You guys are kind of seeing me doing a little tilt right now, and tilting is when you're like, I really don't want to, but I'm going to. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. But we'll find out later because I don't have to make that decision until Sunday. I think it's Sunday. Yeah. Is it Sunday? Yeah, I don't have to make that decision until Sunday. I'm awesome. Good. I'm all good. So, yeah, Broncos Chargers. If you want to try to roll out Drew Lock in a desperation play, go for it. I hope that you have better options if you made it this far. Eagles Cowboys, divisional game, and the loser is out of the playoffs officially. Okay, guys. Next up. Oh, and you might be wondering, well, who are you starting here? Jalen Hurts. That's it. The way that the Eagles defense has been playing, I don't want any part of anybody having to do with Dallas. If you are forced to start someone, yes, you can start Amari Cooper. He might be a little dinged up, so keep an eye on that. But if you have to start anybody else, it's probably only going to be Tony Pollard. The only thing that saved CeeDee Lamb last week was that 47-yard kickoff return when they tried to do an onside kick, and then he just ran the ball up the sideline because nobody thought he was going to get the ball. So outside of that, Jalen Hurts is probably the only guy that I want back in this matchup. Little quick side note: Deshaun Jackson has been activated off of IR, so he is eligible to return for this game. So if you're desperate at wide receiver, if you've been decimated by injuries, you can go ahead and probably plug in Deshaun Jackson. Nobody has this guy. He is a home run hitter. He can be a game changer, but the first game with Jalen Hurts. Look, Jalen has the arm. He's got the legs. He's got the IQ. He's got everything that you want in a quarterback. I hate to say it because he's in the division. But if you want to fire up Deshaun Jackson, I totally understand because you're not going to see him again until next year in fantasy football unless you're playing Week 17. So, Pez, if you need somebody to pick up, they do get Washington Week 17. So you might be able to fire him up and get that revenge game going on. Never know. If you got a spot, Pez, talking to you right now directly, if you got a roster spot, if you can afford it, go out, sign Deshaun Jackson before anybody else does, because if he blows up this week, you're not going to get him for Week 17. Rams Seahawks, this game has a lot of meaning. So the Rams coming off an embarrassing loss to the Jets. The Seahawks coming off of a barely won game against Washington. Seahawks at 10-4 have a 1.5 point favorite in this game. Rams at sitting at 9-5. So it's going to be a battle for the playoffs, no doubt. Possibly a battle for the division. In this division, you got the Rams, you got the Seahawks, you got the Cardinals, and you've got the Niners. The Niners are out of it. Cardinals are going to be playing for their life. Rams and Seahawks, the same thing. So this game right here probably is going to help determine the division leader. If the Rams lose this game, then they're going to be battling for a wild card. They're going to be unable to catch the Seahawks, and then Arizona has to win in order to keep pace and hope that Seattle loses. Titans, Packers. With the Titans at 10-4, they are basically in control of their own destiny. The Packers are trying to get that first week bye. They have to keep pace with the Saints. So the Saints are going to have the Thursday game. So if the Saints lose, Packers are definitely going to be trying to win to lock up the Week 17 game where they can just go, Aaron Jones, take the day off. Devontae, take the day off. Aaron Rodgers, we're going to play for a first quarter, and then that's it. We're shutting you down because they will have that first round bye locked up. And then the Monday night game. Monday night game is going to be interesting. That's going to be the Bills-Packers. The Bills-Patriots. The Bills sitting at 11-3. The Pats sitting at 6-8. Officially eliminated from the playoffs for the first time since 2008. Buffalo has a 7-point lead here, or advantage here. I would take the over. Just saying, the way that Josh Allen is playing. Yes, it's December in Foxborough. Keep an eye on the weather here. It could get nasty. If it does get nasty, it's going to be a run game, and we all know that Josh Allen is going to be a better runner than Cam Newton, which you could not convince me of a year ago. So, but the way that everything's been panning out, I don't see the Pats pulling this one out. Their defense is too banged up. Their offense is too out of whack, and the Bills are just on a roll. So, roll out your Bills against the Pats. Never thought you'd hear me say that, did you? All right, guys. I do believe that is it for this week's edition. I do want to thank my sponsors, as always, Cajun Fitness in Rain, Louisiana. I want to thank Keller's Bakery at 627 Lafayette Street off the Youngsville Highway in Lafayette, Louisiana. And Zia's of Lafayette, right behind the Grand Theater on Johnson Street off Doucette Road in front of Red Laurel's Health Club. Remember, if you are in the Rain area and you need a place to go work out, there's no better place than Cajun Fitness. Check them out on Facebook for their other locations. They are in Baton Rouge as well in their new location. They also have Youngsville, Broussard, Opelousas, and Eunice. Okay, so check them out on Facebook. You can find out all the specials going on. They have one coming up. It's only good for 6 days. It's between the 26th and the 31st. So check them out. They have a awesome special coming up, but I want you guys to go check out their website and check out the facilities and see what they're all about. Zia of Lafayette, we're going to be closed early on Christmas Eve, closed on Christmas Day, but we will fire things back up on the wood grill for those awesome ribs. We're going to fire up the rotisseries for all that great rotisserie meat, the rotisserie pork, rotisserie ribeyes, rotisserie chicken that's off the chain. If you guys want any of that stuff, come on down and find them. You can call them at 406-0013. You can find them on Waiter if you want to order that way. And then Keller's Bakery. If you haven't gotten a pie yet for Christmas, what are you waiting for? Get down to Facebook and find them, place your order, and go down and pick them up. They are delicious. The pecan pie is off the chain. And I don't even like pecan pie, but this stuff was awesome. I'm telling you, we had it for Thanksgiving. It was phenomenal. Might get a coconut or a banana cream for Christmas. You never know. But anyway, guys, thank you to my sponsors. I appreciate all the love and support. And for my listeners, for my subscribers, we are up to 42, guys. It's awesome. I know it's a lot to ask for. If we can make it to 50, that would be a great Christmas present for the Deans. So, you know, if we make it up 50, if you're watching for the first time, you haven't subscribed yet, or you've been listening all year and you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit the bell, subscribe, like, share, put us out there. Go find me on Twitter at FantasyDean20 and keep up with me. I will be putting out content all season long. Okay, it's going to be a little more sporadic. It's going to be a little more non-football related, but entertaining nonetheless. So, guys, thank you all very much. Appreciate the love. Good luck this week. I will see you guys tomorrow to hand out end of the season awards for our league of record. Can't wait to see who gets the Golden Plunger Award and who gets most improved. So, guys, for the Dean and everybody here at Fantasy Football Academy 2020, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Good luck this week with your championship run. If you need some help, down the bottom, leave me your comment and let me know what your problem is, what your issues are, what your decisions have to be, and maybe I can help you out and get that title. If I do get you a title, if you do make it that far and you are in the running, please let me know down bottom if I helped out. I would love to know for future reference. All right, guys, take it easy. Y'all have a good one. I'm out of here. This is the Dean for Fantasy Football Academy 2020. Love you guys.